Round 8 is done, and it was a wild time. We'll get into some of that chat around high tackles and whatever, but let's go through a lot of these games and the things I learnt in round 8. My tipping for the week, and then also my fantasy tip of the week. So, what we've got here in my first point is congrats to Tigers for that win there. Oh, gee, the Sharks making some deadly mistakes, and they are, in my opinion, very much clearly not a top 4 quality side. They may end up there, although at the moment, the way they're playing, I don't think they will. And what are they doing at some points there? There was that one where they were, 12, 13, 14 metres out, perfect position, right in front for a Nico Hines field goal. And then Bradley just decides to go left and, give it to one of their forwards to then get, caught, I think it was AFB, caught 2 or 3 metres from the line. Remember then, guys, 2 or 3 metres in front of you is the defensive line. They don't have to go back 10. You're not going to kick the field goal from there. I've probably seen it 2 in 10 times work out. Nico's kick from 45 metres out that hit the inside edge of the post. That was rough. I'll say it. I wanted the Nico points, but the other side of it as well. As I do get the longer time to actually play that game with captains and whatever else going on. So not a crazy difference for fantasy and stuff like that, but a wild finish there with the Tigers getting the job done with a penalty goal in the end, and the Sharks just across that whole game, just especially in the clutch there, just not getting it done and no clear direction. Brayley not with there's a lot of hands up in the air from Hines and Trindle and it just wasn't working out at all. There's one play there, AFB, Hines wanted AFB to just go dead straight there so they could set up for the field goal, and he goes right away from the middle of the park and then throws that forward pass. Like just stuff like that. They're not on the same page, and they have way too many athletic, incredible players to play that way. So they're definitely not a top 4 quality side, and they're not, it's not showing that on the ladder right now anyway, but just a wild time. Number 2, Sandon Smith. Shout out to him. Best game of his career. Not even close. If he and Savala can keep it up, I think they might actually be okay, the Roosters. They showed a lot of quality in this one and were able to put on 46 points against the Dragons, who have actually been fairly okay this year. And on the back of that, I think Teddy can do some really good things. If they're going forward, they've got a few decent forwards there. Geez, how much do they miss Terrell May? It's crazy how much he could do for this side. But they've got a bit of go forward there. If the halves can do something off the back of that, which is what Sandon did, and Savala really kicked well again. Teddy can get the spoils on the back of that. The last 10 minutes of that game, he's always fit and firing and around the ball and waiting for some tired forwards and some tired players to get past. And he loves his tackle breaks and he loves these tries. So his first tries of the year, got 2 of them. He can really benefit out the back of that. And guys like Nwangani Tawaze on that wing, really, really awesome to see his improvement and his growth over the last few weeks and over this season so far. So congrats to Sandon on that one. And Aaron Clark from the Warriors, a really, really great game on that same night, I believe, on the Friday night. Number 3, the Broncos and the Cows. They have all the firepower. The question's going to be, can they defend long term? And a big shout out to speaking of Warriors, the Golden State Warriors, incredible win today. I know for those of you guys that follow along on the channel, I do talk about them a bit. In the private group today, I was just like singing the Warriors, and a few people were like, what is that Warriors you're talking about? Did something happen with the Warriors? I was like, you haven't been around long enough, have you? But great win for them. So speaking of the Broncos and Cows, they can put on plenty of points there, 42-18 and 50-18 for the Cows. That's great. Now the question is, and what we saw in the second half of that clash with the Dogs, 18-0 in the second half, early on until the Broncos scored a couple at the end, and then with the Cowboys, they were down 18-6 and could have been 24-6 if that try was allowed, and would have made it really tough for them to come back against any other team that's actually playing well. That's the question. And you look at all those weapons, Dearden, Drinkwater, Nanai, and then Jackson Purdue, the youngster. Then you had Robert Darby getting 3 tries, and You got Tamalola hardly had to play many minutes, and Reece Robson scoring through the middle of so much firepower, so many Origin type level players that can do a great thing for the Cows. And then for the Broncos, like Adam Reynolds, if he's there and if he's playing well, the Broncos are very hard to beat. The problem with them is their defense, and can they do it longer term? Dogs couldn't play any worse in that first half, especially in the first 20 minutes, kicking the ball too long, getting caught in the in goal, errors, penalties, sin bins, shoulder charges. It was a mess for the Dogs. And off the back of that, Broncos, even in the wet, were able to show their attacking prowess. So very, very impressive, those two teams. But the defense needs to show for them to be considered contenders, or at least borderline top 4 type teams. So congrats to those guys, big wins, and did a really good job. Dolphins, just a really, really poor loss for them. I have to say, well played to the Raiders and Fogarty, and the comment there about Warriors getting done. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. Didn't have to beat much in the Knights, but just another win at home, just ticking it over and clearly in the top 4, which is very, very cool. But that Dolphins clash, that was a absolute shocker for them to end up in that position after the lead that they got to at 28-10 by half time as well. The Raiders showed plenty of grit at home and showed some attack. That was the big thing in this one, that Dolphins have been on a roll. They've won 3 games in a row as well. Oh, they did until last week, is that right? And playing great. And away from home, got to that lead, and you think they would have been flying, but the Raiders just showed everything they had and were able to put points on very, very quickly. To put 30 points on in the second half for a team that's not known for their attack, very, very impressive work from them, and led by Fogarty. Hudson Young didn't get his double this week, but guys like Timoko with that lovely line break on that right-hand side opened it up and got them that lead, and got them to tie. Yeah, and then the kick through from Fogarty for that try, and then the try himself to end this and to end it, and that hurt as a non-fantasy owner. But yeah, a great game from those guys there. And then we go to the finishing part. It's just the WTF, those high tackles, the Simbins, the people challenging head highs and stuff. Like that one on Mulatalo, it's like, well, maybe he touched me in the face, so maybe that's a penalty or a sin bin. Like, it is just getting ridiculous. And I did have a bit of a blow up about it in the Saturday fantasy analysis there. Just how it's set up. There was 3 sin bins in that game. There's a couple in this game. There's a few in the game before that. So plenty happening, and thank goodness it hasn't been for too many relevant like fantasy and Supercoach scorers, but it just ruins the game. And you have to have 5-minute sin bins if you're going to play like this, if you're going to have it like this. And none of these head highs resulted in real HIAs. Luai was fine in his this afternoon. So if they're ending up in decent HIAs, then I 100% 10 the bin. Every time someone goes to HIA for getting hit in the head, 100% 10 the bin. But yeah, anyway, that's it. We'll do a bit of a ladder check, but we're heading to Magic Round myself, so I'm excited to meet you guys all there. If you do see me, say hello. Let me know you do watch the videos and listen to the podcast, and be very, very appreciative of that. It's a cool way to we speak to each other online, and some of you may feel like you hear me for hours and hours every week in your living rooms or in the car or whatever it is. Some people, I see it up on the big screen, which is pretty cool. So yeah. If you do see me, I'd love to say hello and meet you guys, even if it's for a second, just to, hey Jamie, I'm like, hey, what's your name? Whatever. That'd be really cool. So love to see you all there. I'm excited for it. Going up with a mate, staying at my some family's house, and got a private group meetup, which would be great fun on Saturday, and then we'll be out and about. So we'd love to see you guys all there. All right, ladder. Doggies still up top with their 6 wins, which is good. Storm got a tighter win. That they didn't play that great, but Bunnies were pretty solid. That Raiders win is massive. They're 6-2, which is awesome. Warriors at 5-2, so the Raiders have actually done better than where the Warriors are at. Broncos sitting in 5th there with 5-3, and I think that's a pretty good spot for them given how inconsistent they've been, and very similar with the Cowboys. For them to go 9-3 to start, to end up winning the next 4, including a bye in there, giving them 10 points, is just an incredible turnaround. And I am very proud of the boys for being able to turn around, because they weren't great defensively. They looked horrendous. Dolphins looked horrendous, and both those sides have turned it around really well. And unfortunately, the Finns lost the first 4. That's right. Won the next 3. Lost this one. Just a couple of losses back from the Cows. Sharkies still in 7th, but they should have a couple more wins and be up in that top 4. But the way they're playing, as I said, it's just not good enough. Not top 4 quality, even though they are near 950 to win the comp. You've got teams like the Cowboys in at 6, who I'd say are playing better than the Sharks right now at $36. Warriors at 26, Raiders at 26, all in that top 4. And then, wow, Panthers in 17th, 2 and 6 are still $15 to win the comp, which is pretty wild. So Sharkies in a 7th. Eagles, an incredible win for them. I actually forgot to mention them in the part before, but that was so clinical and very gritty to get that win. And similar to the Raiders game where they were able to, they were behind and were able to come back and level it and then be really clutch in the important moments. That's what I felt like with the Manly Seagulls, is that when the moment was bright, they were able to come in clutch and do an incredible effort there. So congrats to them on that one. They pushed themselves into the 8 and it's well deserved off the back of that really good win against the hapless Panthers. Dragons, Bunnies, Dolphins, and Tigers. A really important win for the Tigers just to stay, somewhat close to the 8. 1 win away from that. They're 1 win away from 6 right now, which is a big collection of teams from 6th to 13th within 1 win from each other. Titans just, keep getting these leads the last few weeks and then falling away. The Knights just really, really poor. They are currently the worst team in the comp, followed by sort of the Panthers and the Titans right now. And the Eels look to be back a little bit better with Moses, but still are letting plenty of tries in, as we saw with the Tigers last week, who actually didn't play well at all. All right, my tipping for the week. How do we end up? Not great. No, we end up with 5. So, yeah, that's I don't know how many people would have picked the Tigers in that last one there. I got the Sharks there, but had Raiders against the Dolphins. I think some may have tipped the Dolphins in that one. Panthers, I lost that one. Cowboys, I tipped them by 6, and they won by 32. Beautiful. That's good for the margins. Storm got them. Warriors got them. And the Roosters, and lost the Doggies one there. So 5 out of 8. Not sure how that helps me in my comp there. 42 for my cuz. I'm sitting in 4th at 35. So I'm having a pretty shocker of a season. But thankfully it is round 8. And we've got, 2/3 of the season, a little bit more than that to go, which is awesome. And yeah, excited to see how it all plays out. But at the moment, not tipping well myself. Can't say it's just luck. We'll have to say it's partly my fault, right? And yeah, that's where we're at. And to finish this one off, guys, thank you so much for joining in on Sunday night. The fantasy tip of the week. Looked like improving your wing fullback proved pivotal this week just gone. Guys like Drinky, Teddy, Sharp delivering well. Improving halfback was great, apart from selling Sandon. But Savala was great. We've got, Hines with a decent score. Fogarty, a similar boat there. Even buying guys like Marzu and upgrading there. I had him for a 40, but it was a big improvement on Jenkins at 22. So things like that were really helpful. And heading into this week currently, it's just continuing to make moves towards the bye period kicking off in round 11. So we've got still a few rounds, 3 rounds before we get to that one. But you can see there guys like Aaron Clark, really important for hooker and mid. You've got you've got big scores in like Beau Fermor. He had a massive game in a loss, but he's going to be very helpful over the entire bye period, considering he probably won't make Origin at this point. You're looking at people buying Couchman, same thing. He won't be in an Origin squad. When you are looking at these wing fullbacks in guys like Tedesco to guys like Sharp, it's really helping you get good scores, but it's also getting you towards getting your 13 on the park from round 12. So that's the setup right now. Make sure you do go in and have a look at all that sort of stuff. Check out who does play in round 12, who has the best buy schedule, and I'll get in there and get amongst a buy planning video as well over the next little bit. So thanks so much for joining in for this one here. I hope you had fun this week in round 8, and hopefully it's a little bit better on the head highs and whatever else that goes on at Magic Round next week. Can't wait for it. We'll see you there.